know your limits, know when to say no, always give yourself a bit of wiggle room. Hey all, Chris Mystery Cleaning Windows of the File Coast. So I given a quote to a gentleman for gutter clearing, and I always quote these types of jobs, gutter clearing, in person, especially on property, on sort of quite sizable properties. In an ideal world, you don't really want to be the first time you see the gutter or the property that needs servicing. In an ideal world, you don't want to see that, the first time you see that, to be when you tip up and you start unloading your van. So I went up to this this gentleman's property. It's a series of flats above shops in Lytham, and it's 3 floors tall. There is an iron gutter which is utterly chocker with foliage. I'll leave a picture, but basically as you can see, the grass is growing quite heavily out of that gutter, and we were worried that the foliage was growing under the roof tiles. What made me give me the sort of spidey senses that things weren't right is, as we were walking around the front of the property, we could see the corners of several roof tiles that had been dislodged resting on the roof. And so that said to me that at the front of the property, at least, there were some loose tiles, maybe some holes, etc. And it was going to be a bad day, basically. Came away from that, and I sat in the van and I gave myself had a bit of a think. Now, when you're quoting a house, or at least when I quote a house, normally what happens is I look at it and go, right, okay, well, worst case scenario, well, we'll use the gutter vac. If we have access to power, we'll use the gutter vac. And if for whatever reason the gutter vac doesn't work, or the gutter is absolutely ram jam full to the point where we're worried about potentially damaging the gutter, then we'll go up on a ladder, sweep the gutter out you with our hand, etc., put as little pressure onto that gutter as possible, and all is well with the world. The problem is with this house, as I previously mentioned, it's 3 floors tall. Now, I'm a big believer of not asking people to do stuff that either you can't do or that you are not prepared to do. If you're not prepared to do it, it's not really fair that you ask the people that work for you to do it. And quite frankly, one of my contractors, Paul, I've just dropped him off. One of my contractors, Paul, used to be a CCTV engineer, and he's an old hat at sort of climbing and all this sort of stuff, and he would install cameras 3-4 floors from a ladder back when sort of health and safety, shall we say, was being taken a little less seriously by some firms. And he was quite often, more often than not, doing 4 or 5, I think that's the tallest he said he's ever done is 6 floors off an industrial sort of pulley ladder, with a harness, obviously. But the idea of doing a climb that tall, where the garden, if you like, was like these old tenement yards where you didn't have a lot of space to maneuver in the back of there, and the ladder would have been quite sort of a shallow angle. If you're going that tall, you don't really want too shallow an angle. I got it gave me the willies, to be fair. Looking at it, I was a bit like, nah, it's not something I'm quite prepared to take on. So what I said to the gentleman, was, I explained the situation with the gutter. I explained that it was overloaded, that we thought that there was a risk we could cause damage to the property with the hoover if the gutter was wobbling. So what we said is that we would come out to the property, we would attend the property, we would go up inside the flat, and before we put the hoover in the gutter, just see if the gutter had a bit of give in it, or if it was wobbling, or you know what I mean, if there was loose tiles, etc. I was able to get into the flat and reach up, just on the tip of the gutter, and I was touching it just gently, sort of like with one finger, just to sort of see how much give was in it. The right hand side was fine, was solid, not a drama. The left hand side was wobbling like that. Now, you really do run the risk of causing damage to a property if the gutter's wobbling and it's overloaded, you know, and you think that the roof above it is not up to much, and there's foliage potentially growing under the front row of tiles at the front. So in the end, based on that gutter wobbling, we'd already mentioned to the customer, we'll attend it and we'll see if we can do anything with it. And all I said to the customer was, we'll attend. If we can do something with it, we'll sort it. It'll be 165 quid, including VAT. Just because it was a complicated admin nightmare. If we could sort it, it'd be 160 quid, including VAT. If we couldn't sort it, it would be 80 quid, including VAT. And that's not because I was taking money, that's because I wanted to guarantee Paul's wages for the day. You know, because if he's coming out, etc., as a contractor, he'll want paying one way or the other. Customers was really happy with it, and again, when I was up there and I was able to sort of ascertain what the drama was, really the gentleman needed to have a set of scaffolding put up at the back, have a roofer inspect that roof and look at the row of slates leading up to the gutter, and while he was up there, he would probably be better placed to clear it. You know, when I very first started, my inkling would have probably been, if I'm being completely honest, my inkling would have probably been to, well, you've said you're going to do this, you know, you have to carry through with it, even if it's dangerous, even if, you know, you're working stupid hours over what you've charged. If you've underpriced the job, you're committed to it. And I think as I've got a bit more sort of wiser and older, if you like, having done it a few years now, we've built in like the condition with, you know, I said, well, if we can't manage it, they'd still want, you know, the contractor's wages guaranteeing. I did say to the gentleman, I said, it's not about me getting paid for not doing a job. I said, well, you know, if we can't do anything, I still need to pay the contractor to come out and give me a hand. This is not a one-man job, you know, and, you know, and he was quite happy with that. He says, yeah, I'm more than happy that it's not a drama. But this is the problem, isn't it, with some landlords? They don't want to spend that little amount of money periodically to clear the gutter out, clean the windows. They don't want to spend the money. And the tenant, with the greatest, best will in the world, it's not the tenant's problem. Yes, a lot of tenants will be like, you know, we have standards and we'll look after the property as best we can and all this sort of good stuff. But at the same time, you know, when all said and done, the actual responsibility for that property is the landlord's. So, but yeah, I think the biggest thing you can sort of take away from this is ultimately is if you think you're taking on a job that's a bit too big for you, you know your limits and sort of say, it's not for me, this. I would have been quite worried about sort of turning, you know, attending a job and then saying, yeah, it's nothing we can do with this, and walking away. But I think in most cases, a customer would respect your honesty, and quite frankly, even if they didn't, I'm not risking the safety of a contractor or me, you know, for 165 quid. It's just not worth it. Keep on keeping on. In the usual vein, I shall see you in the next video. All the very best.